So, we are seeing a recent trend that has emerged in the last few weeks, or rather a few months, where we have seen sitting chief ministers appearing before the courts. We have had West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee come before the Supreme Court of India, Arvind Kejriwal, the former CM of Delhi, at the Delhi High Court today appearing for himself. Does this have any kind of legal backing or precedent, or this is merely a political stunt?
So once you have a matter in court, if you have engaged a lawyer, then you should normally appear through lawyer. In the case of Mamata Banerjee, she already had a lawyer in court, and accordingly, she should ideally not have appeared in person, because if you want to appear in person, you have to discharge your lawyer. So that was more of theatrics, so to say, because she knows that if she appears in court and makes some sound, it will get eyeballs and it will be widely published. So it was more for the media than for the court. And Supreme Court also was kind to her. Supreme Court could have snubbed her and said that either you argue yourself or you argue through your lawyer. You can't have the best of both. So that was more of theatrics. Even here today, Kejriwal had not engaged a lawyer till today. So technically, he could have appeared himself. But he made an opening statement that I'm appearing only in the application for recusal. And I'll decide whether I'll appear myself or I'll engage a lawyer on the future date. So that was, again, I thought, more for the media and less for the court, because these politicians know that every court hearing is followed very closely by the media, and every word said that there is reported on front pages. So if a judge had simply decided something in that matter or in this matter, the matter would have probably traveled onto the fourth or the fifth page in the newspapers. But the fact that Mamata Banerjee appeared herself or Arvind Kejriwal appeared herself, there is a likelihood of the matter traveling to the first page. So this is more to get into the first or the second page rather than the fifth and the sixth page. And I don't think if they were asked to argue their matter, they would be properly qualified to argue it also themselves. This is more of a public eye. Legally, there is no bar. Every client has a right to argue himself if he decides not to engage a lawyer. But if he has engaged a lawyer, then court normally does not permit the client himself to argue, which was done as an exception only to not insult Mamata Banerjee by saying that sorry, you can't argue because you have a lawyer. That would have been an insult to her, and that would not look nice because she is holding a constitutional position. So the court was, quite tolerant in letting her say a few words in spite of her having a lawyer, and allowed her that day in the sun. But this is more of theatrics than actual addressing the court.
So, to handle politically sensitive matters in the court is always something that requires a lot of finesse, and lawyers have been doing that for a lot of time. But do you think that this trend can perhaps set a different kind of theatrics in order, where leaders from the oppositions might often insist that they want to appear before the court? And in a scenario like this, how will judiciary really strike a balance?
The politicians coming and arguing themselves in complex matters is not going to happen, I can assure you that. Because they will have to rely upon trained legal minds, and they know how, proper trained legal mind knows what is going in the mind of the judge and the question that he asks and how to respond to that question. A politician may be good in parliament and reply to questions in parliament, but to reply to a judge requires a different kind of intellectual ability. And I don't think they will ever do that. This kind of a thing is going to only happen on those, very few days when there is something very important being argued on a particular day, and there is a small issue which the politician wants to make, and he wants that to get into the front page of the newspaper. So the politician will try and only come for that limited purpose, not to argue the matter completely on his or her alone. That is not going to happen according to me, unless we have politicians who are trained lawyers, like we have Mr. Chidambaram or Mr. Sibal or even Mr. Dr. Abhishek Singhvi. They are full-time politicians as well as full-time lawyers. So they definitely can mix that role. But a normal politician who's not a full-time lawyer or has not been a full-time lawyer can, I don't think, take over the complex arguments in a court of law.